before in one of my videos, I have this ground pork, and I want to show you how to make different things with it. In one of my videos, I showed you how to make pizza or sausage meat out of ground pork. And this time I'm going to show you how to use the remainder of the pork to make dumplings. It's going to be dumplings in soup. So the first step is marinating the meat. This one we have already marinated it, or we started with some salt and some ground pepper, and I'm going to show you how to do the rest of it. Okay, so part of the marinade is going to be chives, and these are Chinese chives, so it's not like the really thin chives. And I'm going, oh, by the way, this meat is roughly about 125 grams, and I'm going to use 3 sprigs of chives. And you do want to use the ones that are fresh. So you see this one, some of them is a little wilted or it's in the process of wilting. So you do want to cut off the parts that doesn't look super fresh. So which is pretty much all of the top part. And then and the rest of it, just cut it into really thin. Small. Actually, mine is actually really big. You may want to chop it a little smaller. And then add to the pork. So a few other things I want to add in here would be oyster sauce. So this is oyster sauce, and the brand that I love the most is Lee Kum Kee. Let me see. So again, this is 125 grams. This is a teaspoon. Of them, so that's roughly about half a teaspoon, a little bit more than that. And then I have some oil, which actually I'm going to add at the very end. There's some Shaoxing wine, which is like a Chinese cooking wine. If you don't have that, it's actually really easy to find. You can use some really dry cooking oil, or just dry oil, dry wine that you don't really care too much about, but it really enhances the flavor. So I'm gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 quarter teaspoons. So that's roughly about. Here's the math here. So that's 1 teaspoon and a quarter teaspoon. So you do the math. 6 quarter teaspoons here. Actually, let me have it just around that, so that'd be 2 teaspoons of cooking wine. And then I also have 2 cloves of garlic. I'm just going to grate it and add it in here. So that's 2 cloves of garlic. You want to add 1 or 2 dashes of white pepper. And oftentimes what you see in a lot of Asian cooking is cornstarch. The role cornstarch plays, in my opinions, or what my parents taught me, my dad taught me growing up, is it really smoothens the protein. So I'm going to add, let me see, this is 1 quarter teaspoon. I'm going to add half a teaspoon for this. And then you want to add a little bit of liquid, because what you end up doing is you end up mixing it really hard. So something like this. You end up mixing it really hard. So to break up the protein a little bit, you do want to add a little bit of water. Oh, I have some water here. Let me add about, let's see, what this is, 1 teaspoon, and I'm eyeballing this. I probably want to add about 3 teaspoons. Add 3 teaspoons of water. and mix it really vigorously. Oh, one thing I forgot is actually soy sauce. So this is just light soy sauce. The main difference between light and dark is there's a little more salt content in the light soy sauce. This is 1 teaspoon. I'm going to add it in here as part of the liquid as well. But with the dark soy sauce, people usually mainly use it for coloring. Of course, it is salty, but it's mainly used for coloring. Dark soy sauce is also not as salty as a light soy sauce. So you want to mix it really, really vigorously to the point that at the end it looks really, really connected. It looks really. Okay, let me just do it. Really pasty. That's what I'm trying to say. It's looking good. And then now, this is where I'm gonna add the oil. I just use canola oil. Let me see. I think I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon here. Yep, probably 1 teaspoon. I'm gonna continue mixing it. This is what you're going after, like that really pasty, connected kind of consistency. So that's that. I'm going to let it marinate for roughly about 15 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm going to start making my soup. Okay, so for broth, I don't remember what I said before, but I kind of made a mistake. I have some chicken broth that I made before from just cutting up whole chicken and use the back of the bone. I'll show you a video later, but I'm just going to use about 4 cups of chicken broth as the base. I'm just gonna keep the rest a little bit handy here. Start boiling it, and that's when I'm going to start adding my green onions and my cabbage. And I would say keep it in boil after it begins to boil. Keep it in boil for about 15 minutes or so, and it's going to be pretty much ready. And then you can add the miso, and I'm going to show you how to make the miso mix or miso paste. Okay, so while the soup is making, this is a perfect time for us to put together our dumplings. I use Dynasty. I think it's really accessible. Any Asian market, depending on where you are, maybe Dynasty is not a brand, but my preference is to buy it instead of making it because it's just so easy. And you want to use the pot sticker. So you would see, wonton wrappers, pot sticker wrapper, dumpling wrappers. The key difference is actually just the thickness of the wrapper itself, as well as the shape. So wonton you'll see it being square, and this one for pot sticker it is circle. Square, yeah, circle. So there you have it. So the focus is you want to put the content right in the middle. You don't want it too much, you don't want it to be too little, but too little is actually better than too much because then it will burst. And I typically just use like a butter knife. So this is typically the amount. I put it in the middle. Oh, one thing I forgot is water. So use a little bit of water. Angle on those a little bit different. So here, maybe I have room for a tiny little bit more. That, and then you dab some water. It's really easy. Put all around. Fold this in half. And some people they want to make it really, really pretty, but all I really want to do at minimum is to squeeze the air pocket out or squeeze the air out. So pinch it what happens when there's air, then water gets filled inside. It's just not, it's not pretty, and I like it to be as tight as possible. And if you want to make it a little fancier, then you can pinch the side here. Then you can make it a little fancier. But that's pretty much it, and you keep at it until you finish the filling. I think for 125 grams, you can easily make 10, if not even a little bit more dumplings. But then again, it depends on how full each of these dumplings are. So that's that. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make the miso paste. This is the miso I'm using because I can get it from up the street from where I live. But you can use any kind of miso you can get from the supermarket. What I like about this one, and again, I'm fully aware that you might not be able to get it anywhere else, but what I like about this one is traditionally made and it's made fresh. To make miso fresh, I kid you not, it takes 2 years. I'm like, I don't have that time, so let me just buy it. So for the amount of broth I have, again, you can eyeball it. The beauty of broth is if it's too salty, you can always add more water. If it's not salty enough, you can also, with miso, it has enough salt, but you can also supplement it with salt and soy sauce afterwards. So don't be scared. So I have a little bit of that. Well, when I say a little bit, this is roughly about like, I don't know, a solid 1 tablespoon, if not even a little bit more. And then we'll add a little bit of oil just to break it up. This is just canola oil. You should be using flavor neutral oil. I don't know too much about olive oil, but olive oil has a little bit of taste to it. So canola oil is what I'm using, and you can just add water, or you can add some of the broth that you're already cooking. All you want to do is just to break things up a little bit. So I'm using the broth here because I think it's easier. It's already available. And one thing about the broth too is the leftover meat that I have from the bowl, I added some water. Stir it up a little bit because there's so much flavor from the leftover pork, and I added that to the soup. But again, you're making it for yourself or for family, so no big deal. So that's easy. It's already breaking up. So this is what I'm going to be using to put into the soup itself. Really easy. Okay, apologies for the angle. I know it seems a little weird, but you can see that the water is boiling here. And the dumpling is ready. I'm going to turn down the heat a little bit. Rumor has it, to make sure that dumpling is ready, it floats. And that is completely true. However, you do want to be sure, and you want to make sure the inside, like the core of the pork, is completely cooked. So we are going to wait until it pops up. But one of the tricks that I've learned from Marian's Kitchen, which is an Australian chef, is after it floats, add a little bit more water, maybe like 2 to 3 times, just to make sure that everything is really completely cooked. To prevent sticking, I'm just gonna stir it a little bit. I'm gonna leave a little crack here. Now I have this broth that's making, it's gonna be a lot of steam. So that's the broth here. I did add, you see some meat residue here. Shouldn't say residue, but there's some little meat pieces here because that's from the leftover pork. And I'm going to add my miso paste here. quicker. The reason I didn't tell you how much more water to add afterwards, I mean the water is going to get boiled down as I cook it. The reason I didn't want to talk about how much water is because it depends on your preference. It depends on the vegetables you're putting in. In this case, there's going to be water from the cabbage being released. And soup is just one of those that's incredibly forgiving. It's good. I think it's probably just need some soy sauce here. Again, I know I'm eyeballing it, but season to taste. Ooh, look at the dumplings. It's boiling, it's floating. So this is what I mean. Oh yeah, this is perfect. So now you see that they are all floating. I'm going to add some cold water. Yeah, so some cold water to bring down the temperature. And then when it begins to boil again, I'm going to add some more. It's going to be pretty full, so I may take some of the water out just so I have a little bit more room. Add a little bit more. Yeah, this soup is pretty much ready. So let me turn off the heat, cover it, and wait. Okay, the food is ready, and here are the dumplings. I think I managed to make about 11 to 12 of them. So 4 in each bowl. Yep, 11. Put some green onions on top. If you want, I'm gonna add a little bit of sesame seed oil on top to really help round out the flavor. And the reason you want to add it at the end and not in the beginning is because of the cooking temperature, and sesame seed oil can get burnt really quickly. So you want to add that at the end and not in the beginning. But here you go.